Support for WUWM podcasts comes from Potawatomi Casino Hotel Milwaukee, home to 24/7 excitement, dining, and an on-site hotel at 1721 West Canal Street. More information at potawatomi.com.
From Apuant Productions and WUWM, this is Classic Eats. My guest today is Ryan Castelaz, barista, author, and founder of Discourse Coffee in Milwaukee, one of the most inventive coffee programs in the country. He went to Italy to study opera and fell in love with espresso instead. Lucky for all of us. It's liquid stories, the coffee wizard of Sister Bay, and the long, strange, delicious arc from Folgers to the fourth wave of coffee on this episode of Classic Eats. But first, a story. It is 6 a.m. in Florence, Italy, and you don't speak much Italian, but you know enough to order an espresso at a bar like you've been doing it your whole life. You set your euro coin on the zinc counter. The barista, unhurried, unimpressed, pulls the shot in under 30 seconds, slides the demitasse toward you without ceremony, and turns away. You drink it standing up, the way everyone around you is drinking it standing up. And something happens that you will spend the next decade trying to explain. It isn't that it's just good, it's that it means something. The ritual of it, the precision, the fact that this small dark cup has been the opening line of this city's daily story for 400 years. And you are, for this unremarkable Tuesday morning, a part of that sentence. That's what coffee does when it's done right. Its caffeine wakes you up. The cup, the ritual, the rest puts you somewhere. I've talked about coffee on Classic Eats before, about the Ottoman coffee houses of the 16th century, those dangerous, magnificent rooms where poets and merchants and revolutionaries sat elbow to elbow and argued about everything, and governments across 2 continents were so alarmed by what they thought was being said over coffee that they tried to ban the drink and the places it was drunk outright. Coffee, it turned out, was not just a beverage, it was the conversation starter of world historic proportions. But that was coffee's past. Today we're talking about its present and its future. Because something has been happening in American coffee culture over the last decade or so, something that rhymes with what happened to cocktails when a generation of bartenders decided that a drink could be a serious thing, a craft, an argument, a story told in a glass. Coffee is having that moment right now, and there are a handful of people in this country who are at the leading edge of it. One of them is from Wisconsin. Ryan Castelaz was studying to be an opera singer when he fell in love with espresso in Florence, Italy, which tells you something about him immediately. That he came to coffee not as a commodity or a caffeine delivery system, but as a form of expression. He named his shop Discourse because what he's always wanted to do is start a new conversation around coffee. He opened it in a place called Sister Bay, Wisconsin in 2017, moved it to Milwaukee, Wisconsin in 2021, and somewhere in there wrote a book that the culinary world took seriously enough to name a finalist for the International Association of Culinary Professionals Cookbook Awards. The book is called The New Art of Coffee. The title is a statement of intent. It covers the history of the American coffee movement from its origins to modern-day interpretations, and then blows past history into something else entirely. Coffee as cocktail, coffee as experience, coffee as, in Ryan's words, a liquid story. We're going to talk about where coffee has been, where it is, and where someone like Ryan Castelaz is trying to take it. About what the fourth wave means and why it matters. About what happens when a kid from suburban Milwaukee, Wisconsin, goes to Florence to study opera and comes home to change something seminal about coffee. It starts, as it always does, with a cup. I'm Kyle Johnson Cherek, and this is Classic Eats. Ryan, thank you for taking this time.
Always a joy.
I struggled in the opening essay, which has now become its own sort of hallmark moment for Classic Eats and listeners, with what to say about you, because you are a white snow leopard meets a Salvador Dali meets a Rocky Balboa hustler meets Willy Wonka.
This
That's
is
what you
everything I've
are.
ever wanted to be called.
That's what you are.
That's my new business card.
You are some of all of those things. So can you explain to me, though I've known you for a long time, and we're going to talk about that. Explain to me how you see yourself in this world of coffee and now cocktails.
Oh, that's such a good way to start. I think for a long time, I saw myself as a doer. I was somebody who really wanted to put incredible, crazy, wild things into the world. And now I much more see myself as like a host or a platformer for like the next generation of talent. To be able to have a platform and a place and a stage to express themselves in a way that I didn't have. I had to build my stage, and so my goal now at this point in my career, is to create that stage for as many other givers as I can and as many other doers as I can to be able to really evangelize and show the world that there are more people in our industry who think like me. And a lot of them just haven't been given the platform, the place, the permission, the support to be able to express themselves in the way that they want to. And so now I've really started to view myself as less of the doer. There are still elements, of course, where I am the doer, but a lot more as the platformer and kind of the person providing the stage for the next generation of doers.
You have a stupid temerity that I wish more people had, and I'm also maybe glad that others don't. Not as many do. So for our listeners, I'm going to tell a story of when I first met you, or when we first met. I was up in Door County, which is, for people in the rest of the country and the rest of the world, wouldn't you describe it as sort of like the great up north meets Cape Cod meets...
It's 100%. Cape Cod of the Midwest, baby.
Cape Cod of the Midwest, but it's got a woodsy, outdoorsy kind of thing going on, too. And it's a little finger off of the state that sticks up. So it's got wild weather because it has a bay on one side and a Great Lake on the other. Yep. And I think that influences how people live.
100%. And the fog, man. We could talk for a whole episode about the fog.
Yeah. And so just like Cape Cod, people from all over the Midwest region descend on it from Memorial Day to sort of Columbus Day, President's Day, and then they disappear. I first met you. We were doing a show, my original show on PBS, and you were there. And I said to the crew, make sure you get that kid, because you were like 12. You were like 19 probably or something, right?
It's a decade ago, man. I was 22.
Yeah. You're 22. Yeah. Well, you read as if you were 14.
I acted that guy.
Yeah, you had a innocent paperboy energy about you.
I'm now 32 and I read like I'm 25. Yes, I am.
Yeah, exactly. No, it's true. Yeah. Anyway, I said, be sure and you get some shots of this guy, because he is the most interesting person we are going to meet and have met this whole, 4 or 5 days of filming. And then the next time we came up, you had Discourse Coffee, which was this little coffee incubator lab of molecular gastronomy and jazz records and other things. But people have to go back to the episode because it wasn't dark. It wasn't moody. It was this gorgeous little thing in a horrible location in one of the biggest, probably the biggest tourist draws in the Midwest. And you were like almost trying not to be found. Only the special people could find you. And then in a very short period of time, you publish a book that with Rizzoli, the Tiffany of art books, right? And then open up Discourse in Milwaukee. So going from tourist center to a much bigger city, and then your fantastic cocktail spot agency, which is a very curated experience and one of the more special places to drink, I think, in the country. And now you're opening up more coffee places in Fullerton Market in Chicago. So, you're going to be like down the block from Millennia and Aviary and things like that. So all that is amazing. And I'm so happy for you.
Thank you.
But tell me, if you can, give me a little insight into how have you, I don't care how you've done it. And I don't mean pick up the phone and called people, but how have you gotten from point A to D to G and then back to C, just to see how that figures out?
Man, Thank you for the recap. It's always crazy to hear it, and
Yeah.
there's like this little thing, this little light that pops up in the distance, right? It's just like flicks on for a second. And every time I've seen that little light flick on, I've started walking towards it, right? And I think that is really, truly, like, we could talk forever about all the minutia and the failures and the struggles and the successes, and but I think really what it is at every point in the journey, there's been a little light that's flicked on, and I've walked towards it. And I think that really is the hardest thing to do, right? Is to have the courage to walk in the dark towards a light that you don't even know where the light is coming from. The light could be coming from an anglerfish who's going to eat your face off, right? And it has in the past, right? But you have to walk with that blind faith that this intuition, this feeling is right. Another example of that, I mean, we talk about Rizzoli, right? Like, I had been thinking about writing a book. This is about 3 years in, and I had learned a lot. Right? I had staged and studied and explored and experimented with hundreds and hundreds of drinks, and I wanted to start teaching baristas how to do this. Like, how do we bring bar techniques into the coffee world? And so my idea was, I'm going to write a cute little handbook, just a little manual, and I'm going to disseminate it to 100 baristas, right? And so I'm talking with somebody who came into the bar one day to the coffee shop, and I was telling her, I always tell guests my life story, and I was telling her, like, hey, I'm writing a book right now, and she's like, oh, no way, you're writing a book? I just published a book. And I'm like, you just published a book? She's like, yeah, it's called Cheese, Sex, Death. I wrote it, and I worked with this agent called Indelible Editions, and I never would have published this book if I hadn't talked to Indelible. And so I think a lot of people at that point in the conversation would be like, oh, that's so cool for you. For me, it's like, how do I talk to them? Like to me. And so she put me in touch with Dinah Dunn, who is the chief at Indelible Editions, and I pitched Indelible on this weird, wacky idea of what I wanted to create, and Dinah loved it. And she told me, she's like, well, we take 15% of the contract, and I'm like, so there's no fee if you don't sell this, right? Like, I don't owe you any. She's like, no, we just take 15% of the contract. Right? And so for me, I'm like, so you take 15% of the money I wasn't gonna have. Cool, I can do that. I like that. So we signed on.
I'm only out. You mean I get 85% of my drink?
Exactly.
Okay.
Cool. I can do that. I can do that. So we signed on with Indelible, and we wrote the sample pages, and we pitched it around, and we really only got two offers, but one serious offer, and it was from, of all places, Rizzoli. And so for me, it was just this unbelievable moment. At that point, Kyle, I'm still a kid, and I still see myself as a kid in a lot of ways. In Door County, Wisconsin.
Don't worry.
4 years in, from nowhere, we have 3,000 followers on Instagram, and one of the world's biggest publishing houses is like, yo, I want to buy your weird coffee book. And so every step in the journey has really just been that. It's been seeing that little light in the distance and kind of trying to fearlessly walk towards it.
So that's lovely. Thank you. So how did you, well, first of all, let me back up. Explain to me what you think the fourth wave of coffee is, because you do a beautiful job in conversation and in the book and in social media and other platforms elucidating what you see as the first, second, third wave. And so basically coffee comes out of the Middle East, really Africa, and then it goes across Europe, and that's the second wave. And then you kind of scrunch the Starbucks Pete's Coffee thing into the third wave, which I think is accurate. And we're living, and you are one of the tips of the spear, and there might even be 2 tips or 3 tips.
It's a trident.
It's a trident. Yeah. There's not. Maybe it's a fork. I don't know. But you're one of the tips of the spear of the fourth wave. So, explain how you got there.
Man, that is such an unbelievable honor to hear you of all people say. When I first started my career, I was really enamored with a gentleman named David Schomer. And David Schomer was pretty widely regarded as one of the fathers of the third wave. And I, after reading his book, the Professional Barista, I vowed to myself, this is over 10 years ago, I was like, I want to do this. Like, I want to be David Schwimmer for the next generation of baristas. And it's really insane, man, you know, to kind of look back on that moment and think, you know, 10 years later, like, we're pretty close to that. Like, we're starting to do that. We're starting to be that for that next generation of baristas. And it's an unbelievable honor. You know, for me, and this is like, I'll start by saying I don't think there was a single definition of the fourth wave. I don't think that my definition is the right definition. I think it is my definition, and I think
explain what it is. Give us a definition.
So for me, what I think,
fourth wave of coffee.
If we look at the fourth wave, we are talking about the guest experience, right? And so in the third wave of coffee, what we're looking at is quality, transparency, supporting farmers, supporting producers, being very clear, 100% direct.
Bringing consciousness into coffee.
Yes, 100%. That's a great way to describe it.
Yeah.
And I think in the fourth wave now, we've gotten really good at that. You know, like Trish Rothgeb coined third wave back in like 2001. You know, we've gotten really good at that. And so for me and my career and my journey has always been, how do we take amazing coffee and create and build novel, indelible guest experiences around that? And so the analogy that I often use, right, is like a third wave coffee shop would be like going to that Japanese whiskey bar where you know all the spirits are immaculate, they're immaculately curated, sourced, prepared, the ice is going to be perfect, the serve is going to be perfect, but your choices are what spirit do you want, right? I'm not going to mess up the work of the producer, right? And fourth wave is the cocktail bar. Fourth wave is you go into a place like Agency, right, and you say, okay, we have amazing spirits on the bar,
which is your cocktail bar.
Yes, but how do we take these spirits and reinterpret them through our own lens, express ourselves on top of them, to create something new and novel and indelible and engaging? And so for me, the fourth wave is the wave of coffee where the barista steps up from craftsman and enters into the realm of artist, where the barista starts to express themselves, starts to create things that mean something to them, and in doing so, create a new level of experience, a new level of emotional resonance and transference with the guests that just could not ever exist in the rote, mechanical, technically driven third wave of coffee. And so that to me is the fourth wave, is this real focus on guest experience, on barista expression, and in what we call curation, community, and creativity, or the 3 C's kind of the modern coffee shop.
Got it. So that was perfectly, I mean, that's, wow, holy shit. I'm just gonna And for some reason, and I don't know why, and I don't think you know why either, your coffees, I mean, this book, you know, you've got drinks just from the book, and I know there's a schmillion more, but you've got them called like Darkest Peru and Jesus of Suburbia.
Shouts out Paddington.
Yeah, exactly. And Motorhead, one of the greatest bands ever.
Truly.
And one named after Dominic Crenn. And, you know, they're not gimmicky, they're poetic, but I don't know how, with these really ridiculously esoteric, you know, artist swoosh type of drinks, you have managed to thread this thin line where people actually want to drink them and make them and enjoy them, as opposed to much of what the craft cocktail experience went through when it first came on, where people were like, I want 2 fingers and some ice cubes and fill it up and get out of my way.
We've had that though, you know, and we've gone through that. You know, when we first started, Kyle, I mean, 2017, right? And in 2017, we were about 11, 12 years into real third wave. Not past the idea that coffee is beautiful, coffee should not be tarnished, right? And so if you were a big coffee acolyte back in 2017, right? Unless you competed and had to make a signature drink for competition, like it was blasphemy what we were doing. Like putting bitters and salts and powders and syrups and foams and turning a high grade coffee into pearls and
beet powder.
100%.
Like all of it.
This was blasphemy, you know. And so we had really 2 groups of people.
Who percolates honey?
Exactly. So we had 2 groups of people that came in, right? There were people who came in and they were like, I've never seen anything like this, and I love it. Like, I feel like I'm home, and where have you been all my life? And then we equally had people who were like that coffee doesn't need any of this. It's beautiful. Just serve it, you know. And so I think that's where it's, you know, I think as an artist, it really is about like, I believe in the work that I'm doing, and I believe that if it resonates with me, it will resonate with somebody. And that is what I teach my drink makers to this day, right? It's like, I don't want you to put anything on the bar that doesn't mean something to you. Honestly, I feel like this year I stepped up to the starting line. Like, and that to me is like the most crazy and exciting thing. Is like, I feel like everything that we've been working on and working towards for the last 10 years, like this year is the year that it's all starting to really crystallize and come together. And I know how to grow this thing, and I know where I want to take it, and I know what's important to me in my 30s, and I know the legacy and the impact that I want to have. You know, and now, Kyle, we are at a point where there are many different roads that this could go, right? And so I've spent the majority of the last year of my life really thinking about like, what is important to me and what is the legacy that I want to leave, and the platforms that I want to create, and that has been so powerful. And so to answer your question, you know, this last year we completely restructured the company to have Afterglow, which is our new hospitality group, which I am now the CEO of, and Afterglow manages Discourse and agency, but it also manages our brand new roastery, Guest. Which I'm so excited about, and we're literally putting coffee in hands next week. We got Cafe at the Plaza, which is like one of my favorite restaurants in the entire world.
That's
coming
fantastic.
on. Cassis,
So
Esther Ave, you know, and so it's been, that is a huge part of where we're going, is how do we start to create products that can disseminate beyond four walls, and the second really big part of where we're going is empowerment, you know, and this is really kind of what I was getting at earlier, is I've done the doer thing, and I love it, and I'm so happy I did it, and I've learned an unbelievable amount. But my next chapter, Kyle, is figuring out, how do we use everything that we've learned? How do we take this really powerful framework, this thing that works, right? Like we have proven now that it works, even in the most competitive landscapes on earth, you know, and so if we know this thing works, right, and so many coffee shops don't work, right, and we know this works, and so over the next 5 to 10 years of my life, you know, my goal is finding people like me, finding that creative who is yearning for a voice, yearning for a platform, who has things to say, and empowering them in a way that instills true equity to the working environment, to create a meaningful contribution to the community, to the world. You know, I believe that the next wave of coffee, the fourth wave, is not just built by me. It's not just built by my dear friend Morgan Eckroth, who has done so much to move the movement forward. It's built by everybody who participates in the creation and expression through coffee. So be brave, you know, explore, view coffee as play, view drink as play. And I think those are the big three. It's expansive, it's easier than you think, and it's inherently creative.
That's a good trifecta. That's our show. Whether you're taking a seat at our table or standing up with your espresso, thanks for savoring it with Classic Eats.
Classic Eats is created and hosted by Kyle Johnson Cherek and co-produced by Apwant Productions and WUWM.
Executive producers Kyle Johnson Cherek and Rob Schoonover. Audio editing and engineering by Brian Arkta and John Rymaszewski.
Once again, thank you to this episode's guest, Ryan Castelaz. You can hear this episode again and any others you've missed when you subscribe to Classic Eats, found wherever you listen to your podcasts.